By final score from Warrior Stadium, Cougars 14, Warriors 13. This is Warrior Football on the Warrior Nation Network.
Wendy's new breakfast 2 for $3 is so good, the crew is giving every combination code names.
I got that sauce biscuit and some tay-tays.
More formally known as sausage biscuit and small seasoned potatoes.
Bis squared.
Egg and cheese biscuit and sausage biscuit. 2 biscuits. I'm impressed Tyler knew what squaring was.
Cup of dubba java.
It's 2 coffees.
Cup of dubba java.
No matter what you call it, Wendy's breakfast is that breakfast. Choose wisely. Choose Wendy's new 2 for $3 Biggie Bundles.
Athletic training services are provided by Encore. Encore's sports medicine division sees that every athlete, professional and amateur, receives the highest quality of athletic training services. Encore's goal is to get athletes back to performing at the highest level. As the largest privately owned rehabilitation company in the Southeast, Encore Rehabilitation, Inc. helps people get back to their lives through physical therapy, occupational therapy, aquatic therapy, sports medicine, and other orthopedic rehabilitation programs.
In sports, every point counts. And at Alpha Insurance, we know when it comes to your budget, every dollar counts. That's why we work to get you the lowest rates and best discounts available. Call Alpha agent Dustin Ellison at 205-938-9881.
We welcome you in here to the Warrior Nation Network postgame show. The fireworks, which you are seeing right now here at Warrior Stadium, does not signify the way we feel in the booth, I can tell you that. But we are happy that homecoming week is getting the fireworks that it deserves. Unfortunately, all the fireworks we saw on the field of play did not lead to a Thompson Warriors victory. I am Tim Melton. With me here in the booth, the voice of the Warriors, Matthew Moyer, and 2-time state champion, Mr. John Lunsford. John, I'm going to start with you because we witnessed this game last year between these two teams, and it came down to the kicking game, and it was a game that was a heart stopper for sure. This one lived up to the billing, also being a very dramatic contest that came down to some of the fundamentals.
Yeah, and you have to give Thompson a lot of credit for playing well in the second half, getting that touchdown to tie the game at 7. The defense, 2 really good defensive stops there, one at the goal line and one inside the red zone that led to Thompson having the chance to even get down there and potentially win the ball game. It was just a tough break there, but overall a good performance from both the offense and defense here, and you got to give a lot of credit to Clay-Chalkville for the way they play also.
Matthew, I'm very rarely shell-shocked here in the booth at Warrior Stadium, but tonight that's the only way I can describe my feeling. In what was a game where the defense, it felt like, answered the call every single time. Their backs were put up against the wall, and unfortunately, the win eluded the Thompson Warriors tonight, even though they played with a lot of heart.
Yeah, that's a great way to put it. The heart was absolutely left on the field tonight in a couple of different ways. First, in that they gave it everything that they had, and then at the end, it kind of got ripped right out of their chest. Not exactly sure what happened on the touchdown play to warrant the unsportsmanlike conduct. There were some interesting calls tonight, I thought. I can't wait to see the replay of the Clay-Chalkville touchdown. But, yeah, it's shell-shocked is a great way to put it, Tim. I think everybody here is.
I mean this as a compliment, Matthew. At times, listening to the call tonight, I did feel like you were at times more of an advocate for trying to get the call right on the field, even over being a play-by-play man, because there were a bunch of judgment calls that just seemed like they needed somebody arguing, and unfortunately that sideline warning was already issued to us, so I was hoping your voice would carry across the field and do the job for us in representing the Warriors. But unfortunately, a lot of those calls did not go the way of Thompson tonight.
They didn't, and the other thing that was odd, and you're rarely going to hear me complain because any of these referees, it is an incredibly difficult job, but it seemed to me like every time we would tackle them, somehow or another, a yard or two, or at one time, there was a 4-yard difference from where the person was tackled and where the ball was marked, and it was just very confusing.
I'm right there with you. I'm seeing the same thing here from my perspective. This is the Warrior Nation Network post-game show presented by Wendy's, Abide Roofing, and Central Alabama Asphalt. If you're hungry after the game, stop by Wendy's on Kent Dairy Road for a late-night snack. Our favorite are the new spicy nugs. Get them in one of 4 bold flavors: ghost pepper, buffalo, garlic parm, and honey barbecue. They're drippy, they're yummy, they're all the things. John, why is it that when these two teams take the field, they produce magic? Because it is an extremely competitive matchup, and one that, once again, on paper, was juggernaut versus juggernaut.
These are 2 of the top teams in the state when you look at overall rankings, when you look at Cal Preps, when you look at AL.com, when you look at Massey on 3, all their overall state rankings. I mean, these are 2 top 5 or 6 teams, depending on how you look at it. This loss may drop Thompson a little lower, especially when it comes to ASWA rankings, because I'm going to be honest, they don't really know what they're talking about most of the times, and they just go off records, and that's going to make them drop teams. But Thompson is still definitely a top 3 or 4 team in 7A. Clay is definitely a contender for a state championship again this year. And look, it was a 3-point win, then a 3-point loss, then a 1-point loss. I mean, the total margin of victory on aggregate is 1 point between these 2 teams right now. That's how close they are, and I fully expect to see both these teams, making it to the semifinals and potentially the Super 7 again this year.
Matthew, if you just look at the record of the Thompson Warriors, I can understand the critics trying to pick this team apart if you're just simply looking at the numbers. However, this is a team that's lost 2 heartbreaking games in overtimes this season. They could easily be undefeated right now. This is a Thompson Warriors team that may benefit from other teams, especially within the region, doubting them, thinking this is their chance to take them down, that they're a wounded animal. I promise you, sir, that is not the case.
Nope, you are exactly right. That is not the case. I think what we have learned, if you are going to hang with the Warriors, you have to dominate time of possession. If you look back to the Grayson game, they definitely won the time of possession, and tonight Clay-Chalkville had it for 30 minutes and 11 seconds. The Warriors had it for 17 minutes and 49 seconds. It felt even more lopsided than that. I remember during a timeout I asked you guys, have we even had the ball in this quarter? Because I really couldn't remember. The Clay-Chalkville was on like a 7 or an 8 minute drive. That's the way you're going to hang with the Warriors, is you got to keep the ball out of Trent Seaborn in that offensive hands.
John, let's go ahead and get to the player of the game presented by HCR Cabinets. HCR Cabinets and Countertops is a proud supporter of the Thompson Warriors. Tonight's HCR Cabinets player of the game is...
Yeah, so there were a lot of really good players in this game to keep it a really close game, but I'm going to go with R.J. Evans here. He played really well, basically coming in for Michael Dujon. We heard Christina early in the game say that he was out after the first couple of drives. He has been so good this season, but RJ's been really good in relief of Dujon. And, really instead of being that backup, essentially, Thompson has always had a lot of success when they've had kind of a 2-headed monster in that backfield. And you saw it with Dujon last year with A.J. Green. You're seeing it now with R.J. Evans as well. And coming in, having to play the entire game, especially when the run game was almost non-existent in the first half. We talked about Thompson only had 6 yards total, but RJ allowed kind of things to open up, did a good job catching the ball out of the backfield as well, and had the lone touchdown in regulation. Even though there's a big pass play to kind of get Thompson in position for that, he was able to punch it into the end zone. So RJ Evans played really well tonight in relief of Dujon and kind of was the only running back in the backfield, and definitely deserving of the player of the game.
HCR Cabinets and Countertops is Birmingham's cabinetry and countertop specialist, specializing in prefabricated, semi-custom, and custom cabinetry. Visit their showroom today. They specialize in design for new construction, home remodels, commercial, and residential properties in Birmingham and Central Alabama. Call them to schedule your free in-home consultation and design at 205-669-9550. That's 205-669-9550. We'll return shortly with more of the Warrior Nation Network postgame show presented by Wendy's, Abide Roofing, and Central Alabama Asphalt.
Late night decisions aren't my strength.
I could do another episode.
I should check out that noise coming from the woods.
Let's get tattoos!
But one call that never fails is Wendy's, where every burger starts with fresh beef. Unlike my ankle dolphin, I never regret a Baconator. Have a good bite. Choose wisely. Choose Wendy's late night.
Hours may vary. Fresh beef available in contiguous North America.
Hey Warrior family, are you in need of any carpet cleaning services? Steamworks' highly trained and top-rated team has been the carpet and upholstery cleaner of choice for many local residents and businesses in the Birmingham metro area since 2005. We use the industry's most advanced cleaning equipment to clean your carpets, rugs, tiles, upholstery, and hardwood floors to the utmost satisfaction. For a cleaner and healthier home, call Steamworks today at 205-365-1908 and ask about our 3-room special for $120. And go Warriors!
Welcome back into the Warrior Nation Network postgame show presented by Wendy's, Abide Roofing, and Central Alabama Asphalt. I am Tim Melton, joined in the booth by the voice of the Warriors, Matthew Moyer, and two-time state champion and our Warrior Nation Network color analyst, Mr. John Lunsford. Guys, we're still digesting the 1-point loss here, homecoming week. The game was, no doubt, very exciting, very competitive, very physical, very emotional, both sides showing a lot of emotion. Matthew, what did you think about the composure shown during this game? Because there were times where it felt like things were going to erupt on the sideline for both squads in this. And there was, it seems like, a lot of sportsmanship after this game, definitely during the game. I didn't see a lot of cheap shots. There were a couple of late hits that were 50-50 calls for the referees, but I felt like overall both these teams came out there and they should be proud of the performances that they had and the way that they held their composure throughout the game. Did you have that same sort of sentiment from your viewpoint?
I sure did. I mean, I think I've heard for years that talent respects talent, and these are two incredibly talented teams. You take a look at the way that Anquan was able to maintain his composure. He came up with a couple of huge stops when they had the ball inside the 1-yard line. And so I thought that we did a wonderful job. Really, both sides did a wonderful job. It's a very emotional game. It's supposed to be. That's the way I believe that football is designed. It should be an emotional game. I thought that both teams did a great job of keeping their composure.
John, take us into a player's perspective. When you go to watch the film on this sometime this week, how painful of a game is this to go back and view, knowing that you did everything needed to secure the win in a big homecoming week event?
When a loss is tough to watch, obviously, anytime you lose, you know there's something you could have done better, and even in wins, you're never going to play perfect. But, I think the offensive and defensive line, we'll see how early on they were not winning those battles. Clay definitely controlled the line of scrimmage early on. It got better as the game went on, and especially after halftime, after the defense got some rest, after those long drives they had and the crazy time of possession they had. I think they're going to see the rain in the first half limited the pass game. There were a couple of pass plays that maybe should have been caught, but the rain made it tough for the receivers to catch it, tough for Trent to roll out and get those accurate passes. And the pass game definitely opened up in the second half because he ended up 15-23 for 224 yards and a touchdown. Not a bad stat line, but hardly did anything in the first half because of the rain. If you had that, maybe you could have changed things up. Obviously, the rushing attack just was not there. And there's going to be a lot when it comes to breaking down that. On defense, I think you're going to watch those fourth down stops and goal line stops that you had and say we did a lot of really good stuff, but early on, once again, just didn't have it. First thing off, and when you have practiced a game plan all week long and you can't execute it at the beginning, that's where really practice comes in. And then second half adjustments have always been there for Thompson, but against Grayson it wasn't really there, and in this game it really wasn't there. And Vestavia, you heard Mark Freeman talk about it last week, wasn't really there as well. So that's something you're going to watch film this week, and as you prepare for a team like you at Trustville, who's always a playoff team, always competing for a region title, you really want to try to fix those mistakes and come out strong next week.
We want to remind you at Abide Roofing, they understand that your home is your most valuable asset, and they're committed to protecting it with top quality roofing solutions. Whether you need roof repairs, replacements, or installations, their team of experienced professionals delivers exceptional service and lasting results. You know, you may, if you've been following sort of the weather and how it has plagued this Thompson team throughout the course of the season with getting all types of environments to play in, you may want to go ahead and reach out to Abide Roofing if you have any sort of leaks in your roof there. The rain was coming down heavy in the first half, especially tonight, Matthew. It's something this Thompson team should be used to by now. But Clay-Chalkville really did a great job, especially in the first quarter, of basically completely owning the clock during that entire first quarter and leaving Thompson with very little real estate to try to generate some offense. You brought up the time of possession in this game and how lopsided it was, but especially in the first half, it felt like we just couldn't get our hands on the ball.
When you have a really athletic quarterback, it's like having an extra running back there. He can scan the field, and then as he did on quite a few occasions, he pulled it down 6, 7, 8 yards. And one thing that I'm not sure we've talked about too much yet, I think they made a concerted effort tonight to stay in bounds before they went down. There were a couple of times where their quarterback had no choice but to run out of bounds to save his own body. But for the most part, they stayed inside the chalk and kept that clock running, and it really played in their favor. They kept our defense on the field for so much of that first half. To have a halftime score of 7-0 is an incredible blessing when you consider how much that defense played in that first half.
John, it really was a game of adjustments, and it seemed like in the second half of play, much like last week, Thompson made a lot of the adjustments they needed to, and they got some big fourth down stops, but they may be beating themselves up later on when they're looking at some third downs where they couldn't get their offense back on the field, and they were able to have Clay-Chalkville then continue and sustain these long drives that ate away at the clock. The defense deserves all the credit in the world for the effort that they put forward here. But what's it going to take to sustain drives on the offensive side of the ball more consistently throughout the course of the season for the Thompson Warriors?
I do think weather has hurt things and has limited the playbook, especially when, you know, in the past, Thompson has had those running quarterbacks that, like you said, have basically been an extra running back on the field. Zach Sims was that way. Connor Harrell was that way. But, you know, Trent has been much more of a really good pocket passer and can use his legs. We saw him use his legs a couple times very well tonight, but when one of your running backs is hurt, that hurts you. When you have the range, you can't throw the ball as much, that hurts you. And there's been 3 games now that have been downpours. It just has kind of affected kind of building that rhythm as an offense. And, you know, this is something you hope you have fixed by now. And I know couple of big wins that were there. They were in the rain, but it was against, you know, opponents that typically have turned into blowouts. So you just haven't been able to get that rhythm really outside of the Lipscomb Academy game against what is quote unquote a good team. And you're going to play a lot of tough competition here to end the season. So you hope that the game plan is there. They can start strong in a game like Hewitt-Trussville next week and kind of continue that momentum and build some offensive. And hopefully the rain stays away. Hopefully the wind stays away. Hopefully the temperature overall is good. And it's a nice cool night, kind of like it was in that first Grayson game. And you can build some kind of offensive rhythm in that game.
The offense came alive there at the end of the fourth quarter and also in overtime on a fourth down play where a touchdown was necessary. This Thompson Warriors offense delivered what was an epic touchdown. Unfortunately, the penalty ended up being a major difference maker, special teams being a major difference maker tonight. And Matthew, I know John Allen McGuire will beat himself up and be his harshest critic on some of these field goals and some of these extra points situations, especially against a team that he's had a history with here in Clay-Chalkville. However, it was him putting the team in great field position situations with his punting early in the game that had us raving about him all throughout halftime.
Yeah, and even during those timeouts during the first half, we were all talking about, wow, what a wonderful job. 2 things that I want to mention. Number one, you just mentioned it, and that is the penalty. If that ball is not moved back 15 yards, that extra point is perfect. The second thing is, and that's why we're so grateful to have a 2-time state champion sitting in between us, and that is if you have over 30 seconds on the clock and you have third down and the ball is at the right hash mark or very close to it, why not have Trent take a snap, go left or toward the center of the field, and then just take a knee and let that clock run down to 2 or 3 seconds at that point. Really, that hash mark on the field goal is what hurt him. The ball never angled. It stayed straight. If you're in the center of the field, it goes straight through the uprights. He is going to be hard on himself, especially as a young man. And my heart breaks for him because, I watched him walk off the field tonight by himself, had his head down. A couple people tried to come over and talk to him. He signaled them back away from him. He just wanted to be alone. I think that those two things could have really helped him out.
We'll be back. Very well said, Matthew. Right here on the Warrior Nation Network postgame show presented by Wendy's, Abide Roofing, and Central Alabama Asphalt.
This is Travis Lloyd with Abide Roofing. We offer comprehensive residential and commercial roofing solutions. Our expert team delivers top quality workmanship using the best materials to ensure your roof provides lasting protection and aesthetic appeal. We're proud to partner with Thompson Athletics. Go Warriors!
Hey there, Alabaster. When you're injured and you need someone to fight for your rights, turn to the name you can trust, Sean Capps Injury Law. At Sean Capps Injury Law, we're not just attorneys, we're your neighbors, your advocates, and your partners in justice. Got questions about a personal injury, wondering what your case is worth? We've got the answers. Visit our website at www.capsinjurylaw.com or call us at 205-955-5555 for a free case evaluation. And here's the best part, you won't pay us a dime unless we win your case. That's our promise to you. Welcome into the final few moments here of the Warrior Nation Network postgame show presented by Wendy's, Abide Roofing, and Central Alabama Asphalt. We are all still processing the 1-point loss that occurred here on homecoming week against Clay-Chalkville as the Warriors fall in overtime 14-13 in this contest. John, you talked about backyard football and that leading to the touchdown there for Clay-Chalkville. It really did feel like in overtime it was a series of backyard football, unfortunately not going the way of the Warriors tonight.
Yeah, really, even the pass that Trent had was kind of that way too, scrambling around trying to find a person. And when you do that, the receivers run their routes, the defensive backs know what their assignment is, and then at a certain point, literally everything breaks down, and it's all about who can find who and try to find the open receiver. And Clay did a good job of that, had multiple chances to bring him down in the backfield, just couldn't quite get it done. And then, of course, with Trent doing the same thing, having to roll around, try to find what he could find. And both ended up being, ultimately, if it actually was a catch from Clay-Chalkville, ended up being a couple of really good pass plays and catches from the receivers. And, that just shows how well the defenses, I think, played because both of those drives were coming down to the wire and, craziness had to happen for the scores to happen.
John, let's go ahead and look at the scoreboard tonight because there are so many games we've been monitoring, so many high-profile matchups this week. What is standing out to you when it comes to how some of these games are winding down or have wrapped up?
So some teams are off tonight when it comes to Region 3 play. The biggest one I was keeping an eye on, Hoover. A lot of question marks about how well Hoover was going to play this year. So far, have been good. They got the win over Hewitt, which is a big win that they needed to try at least get a top 2 spot here in the region. They fought at Parker 14-10. Parker and Clay, they're going to be 2 teams to watch out for, especially in the north. I would say it's a pretty good bet that the representative in the Super 7 is going to come between those two against a team like potentially Saraland. So Parker gets the win 14-10 over Hoover. I would say this one 14-13 with Clay and Thompson. So Hoover and Thompson, they're competing for this region title as well. Hewitt-Trussville trying to get some momentum back. They win 59-7. Like I said, they've dropped Clay-Chalkville because they're kind of scared to play them, so they play their crosstown rival that's not quite as good, and they win 59-7 tonight over Pinson Valley. Not a Region 3 game anymore, but still a team, obviously, that people know here at Thompson very well. Spain Park, they come back. They were down at halftime. They win 34-24 over James Clemens, who very well could be the region champ up in Region 4. They are tied right now because they hadn't quite played a lot of games. They're tied with Austin and Florence. Austin beat Florence tonight 20-0, so it's between James Clemens and Florence. They're at 3-0 in region play up in Region 4. Not necessarily teams you have to watch out to play because of the way the new playoff format is. We'll explain more about that as we get closer to the playoffs. Hillcrest, they got a bounce-back win, 48-14 over Hueytown, a team that Clay beat pretty good to start the season. So they're getting some momentum, but that's Thompson's next two opponents, Hewitt and Hillcrest, and they both got huge wins tonight over non-region opponents.
Matthew, I know the game tonight here was ultimately decided on the scoreboard side of the field, but if we look over at the indoor practice facility side of the field, it just reminds me of that huge goal line stop to begin the fourth quarter. It reminds me of Trent using his legs on a big third down to get out of his own end zone and avoid the safety and extend the drive. Seaborn having that bomb that led the team inside of the 5 on the other side of the field. The other huge stop after a lengthy Cougars drive. The fight we saw from this team in the fourth quarter was so impressive and is a part of the story tonight for sure.
Yes, there's no doubt about that. And they have a lot to build on moving forward. You come out of this and you want to look for some positives. We have one road game remaining. That's at Hillcrest. The rest of those games are right here at Warrior Stadium where we are comfortable. We don't have to get on a bus ride. And so, yeah, you're exactly right. There were so many positives coming out of that fourth quarter. You can't let a couple of kicks, and I know that we didn't win the game. But when you look at the things that you just mentioned, a lot of positive things that Coach Freeman and his coaching staff can build on to finish out this region play and get this team ready for the playoffs.
Let's remind you about our friends at Central Alabama Asphalt. Does your blacktop need freshening up? Need new asphalt poured? Central Alabama Asphalt and Construction Company, LLC, specializes in blacktop work, offering top-notch services tailored to meet the needs of their customers. Give them a call at 205-349-0910. That's 349-0910. John, there's still a lot of season ahead. There's still a lot to play for. The mission has not changed. Holding up one of those blue maps at the end of the year is still very much in sight. And a game like tonight should make you a better football team moving forward.
And it will. And, look, in my championship years, we lost games along the way, including non-region games. Our rival was Vestavia. We played them every year at the last game of the season. And my senior year, we lost to them. We lost bad to them. 35-14 and ended up winning the state championship that year. Thompson has won state championships after losing games. Go back to a couple years ago when they started with Buford and Lipscomb Academy, lost both of those games, and ended up with a state championship at the end. So this is, just a bump in the road, and obviously it doesn't matter for the region standings. You can still run the table, win a region championship, run the table in the playoffs, and win a state championship. When it comes to tiebreakers, if that is something that comes up, they're sitting at 1 and 2. It kind of depends on what Lipscomb does the rest of their season. But, when you schedule these opponents, I was talking to my dad about Homewood playing Mountain Brook tonight. My alma mater, Homewood, has destroyed 5 not very good teams this year, and Mountain Brook was sitting at 3 and 2. But those games they lost were to two really good teams, and it's like they're tested, and they ended up winning the game tonight in close fashion as well. This does go a long way to helping the team down the road. And, I think kind of like I was talking about with Mountain Brook, a former 7A Region 3 foe of Thompson, I think the same will hold true for Thompson. And for you at Russell, you better watch out.
John, you were outstanding on the call yet again tonight. Matthew, once again, a heartbreaking loss here for the Thompson Warriors for sure. But one thing that can always be celebrated is the home crowd brought it tonight. They were right there. They never took a break. You mentioned it during the game. They were up out of their seats, and they were involved and invested in this, and were very much keeping the Warriors and their hopes alive during this game.
And you never know when you have a low-scoring game. You've got a 7-0 at halftime. You go into overtime tied at 7 apiece. You never know. But if you were here and you were feeling that atmosphere inside of Warrior Stadium, the energy was there, the excitement was there, and the support from our home fans and the cheer squad and the band and ad nauseum was absolutely fantastic.
For sure. On behalf of our entire staff and also the voice of the Warriors, Matthew Moyer, our color analyst, John Lunsford, we appreciate you and your support of the Warrior Nation Network and our Warrior Nation Network postgame show. It's presented by Wendy's, Abide Roofing, and Central Alabama Asphalt. We will see you again next week. We are looking forward to it. Should be a lot of fun here at Warrior Stadium.